little visual reference. Okay. All right, good. Welcome to Mosaic. I'm Eric Stoddard. I've been attending Life Church and Mosaic with my wife Amy for about 6 months. Some of you know us pretty well. Some of you we haven't really met yet. But we just really appreciate the wonderful community that Life Church has provided us. You know, being new to the area, being new to Korea. I really felt I had, this is a really great opportunity to share with you guys some of the biggest challenges in my life and how God has used these challenges to shape my faith, my character, my ability to see humor and the bright side of things, and hopefully God is using these challenges to one day make me a better servant of Him. So, a lot of you have seen me at Life Church in Mosaic. You probably saw me from this angle first. and most of you recognize me. Pretty easy to pick out of the crowd. I'm the cue ball with big glasses. Next slide, please. But most of you have never seen me like this. This is me with my wife Amy. At our wedding in 2003. Next slide, please. This is another shot of me back in California. This is as recent as 2006. After one of my little projects got unveiled at the Detroit Auto Show. This pen out of the way. Next slide, please. That guy behind me, by the way, is my other boss. Most men start to lose their hair in their 20s, and it usually takes over a decade to reach the fullest extent of whatever hair loss they're going to have. I've been losing my hair since I was 9 years old. I have a rare skin condition called alopecia, and it comes in the form of patchy hair loss. Usually starts with a small spot like this. The cause is unknown. It's believed to be genetic in nature. There's no known cure, but there are various treatments, including Rogaine, which is pretty funny, that can help in some cases. It's non-life-threatening, non-contagious, but it can have devastating emotional and psychological impact. For me, it started with a small spot like this, in 4th grade, and it grew back within a year. Of course, my parents and I were very concerned, but once it grew back, it didn't seem like that big a deal. Next slide, please. Fast forward to 5th grade, the spots began to return. Now worse than before. It began to become more noticeable. And while for the most part I was able to cover it up, my parents and I, me especially, began to feel real fear and anxiety about what might happen if it didn't stop. We still didn't know a lot about what it was. My mom worked really hard to learn everything about this condition. She even went to Boston to attend the annual Alopecia Areata Foundation, the annual meeting. We visited dermatologists. We tried several treatments, from topical creams and pills to cortisone injections. The bald spots continued to spread. Some seemed to grow back while others formed in new places. We looked for support groups and forums within our own area, most of which were for adults. So my mom actually started an alopecia support group for kids in our hometown. And during a Wednesday night service at our church, the pastor laid hands on me and prayed for me that God would have his way in this unusual condition. Next slide, please. There's a cute kid there. Wasn't so cute from behind though. By 8th grade, the alopecia had spread to the point where it was becoming increasingly difficult to cover it up with hair. I was blessed to have a very good barber who who had worked with kids before at the same thing, and he knew which hair to keep long and which one to cut short, and but it was getting more and more difficult. These pictures aren't exactly of me, but they're very similar to the state I was in at that time. So I just found these on the internet. This is the time in 8th grade when everybody's changing. All the kids are hitting puberty, and their bodies are changing, and of course kids like to pay a lot of attention to what's happening to all the other kids and how they look. And I became the target of ever-increasing ridicule at school. Names like Baldy, Hairless, the best one was Cancer Boy, were often used. Not very original, but I really began to question God and wonder why He was allowing this to happen to me. None of the medication was working. My mom actually began to investigate having a wig made for me. Because at this point, quite frankly, we didn't know when or how it was ever going to stop. So outside of school, I was never seen in public without a hat. Always wore a hat. Wasn't allowed to wear a hat in school. My parents and I continued to pray that God would free me from the suffering and begin to heal me. But it was around this time that a young man named Mike Powers began attending our church. He was a recent college grad, and he was also a volunteer youth group leader. And he had a more advanced condition called Alopecia universalis. He had absolutely no hair on his head or body, anywhere on his body. But despite how different he looked, he seemed to have an air of peace and confidence in himself. And my parents invited him to dinner at our home, and he told us his story. He had lost his hair suddenly in high school, which is probably even worse time to lose your hair. And like us, of course, him and his family experienced great fear and anxiety. Nobody knew what it was or how it happened. And then mysteriously, by the end of high school, it all grew back. And for several years, he was normal again. During that time, of course, he wore a wig and a hat and all that. But in college, within a span of 5 days, everything came out again. He lost everything, and it never came back. And he tried to cover it up again, but eventually he came to a place where he didn't want to anymore. And he had made up his mind that if anyone couldn't take him as he was, it was their problem. And so he was an incredible, Mike Powers, he was an incredible inspiration for me. But at the same time, being in 8th grade, I knew I had to consider the unthinkable. What if this thing wasn't going to stop and I was going to end up like him, losing everything? Next slide, please. By my sophomore year in high school, miraculously, I had a full head of hair again. And this is my senior picture, but basically from sophomore through senior, yeah. Too bad, huh? Yeah. Different person. Yeah. Notice I had eyebrows. Yeah. But anyway, by my sophomore year, I had a full head of hair again. And finally, it seemed that God had freed me from this thing that had caused me so much pain and anguish. And I was finally able to take off the hat and let the wind blow, and I vowed never again to allow myself to feel this kind of fear and pain again.